All right, so this is 003, lighting design, outdoor areas and sports playing fields. So we're going to go through what's required to complete a lighting design, so you guys know what to provide these guys when you want a design done. Okay, our aim is, as I've just said, is for you to have the information that you can provide. Okay, so what elements are we looking at? So getting started with the basics, Robin. I own a sports field, or I'm a club manager, and I need to know what I've got to do. So what do you take into consideration when you're doing this?
So there's lots of things. The first thing I want to find out is what level of play you want to be lit to, whether it's just training, if it's club competition, or it's higher than that. I need to know if you've got surrounding houses, roads, things like that, where we might affect if we light it incorrectly. I guess hours of usage and all that sort of stuff is taken into consideration as well. So to determine what we need to put there. So
can we upgrade existing installations as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So 9 times out of 10, if you've got an existing installation which has got old metal halide floods on it, the poles will be okay because the LED floods are smaller and more compact and more lightweight than the old HID floods. So.
All right. So site conditions. I was told recently that wind is a massive factor, but the basic site conditions for any pole style lighting or any field lighting, car park or anything like that.
Wind is a big consideration, and that's why when we're doing a new install, we need to know exactly where the ground is, so that when you're talking to the pole manufacturer, he can categorize the wind category for that area.
Right.
Okay. Otherwise, your pole, you can put up a pole and it'll get blown over in a storm. So, so this is not a good thing, but. It's always important to have the conditions. They'll do soil tests and stuff as well to make sure that the poles aren't going to sink and all those sorts of things. The pole guys do all that.
Right, okay. So taking into consideration the site and the environmental issues, which could mean, there's houses all around the sports field, there's main roads or side roads and things like that. All of those kind of things we have to take into consideration.
Absolutely, we do. Yep.
So when we're looking at these things, what backs you guys up? Is there Australian standards that actually support you and give you a guideline as to what's required?
There's 3 different Australian standards that we all look at. So if we're doing car park lighting or pedestrian, things like that, that's the AS 1158 standard. If we're doing sports, so any type of sports is AS 2560, and then there'd just be varying numbers of that 2560 depending on the sport.
Right.
And then there's AS 4282, which is spill light and obtrusive glare. Okay. So there's lots of things to take into consideration.
Do councils have, do they have input into the design of these
They do.
things?
Some of the councils are very, very strict on the spill at surrounding boundaries to surrounding properties. It's best to check with the council that you're dealing with in particular.
Right.
But yeah, they will have input as to the control of spill into the adjoining properties.
So if we've got a light and it's up on top of a pole and it's 12 to 15 meters up, how do we stop spill, or how do we minimize spill?
Okay, so depending on the luminaire that we've chosen, you can put a louver on the fitting, or a lot of the fittings will sit flat and light the ground anyway, so there's no direct glare or spill lighting coming from the luminaire to surrounding properties.
And I believe there's various lenses that are.
There's all different lenses. There's lots of things we can do as designers to control that.
Okay, so now I've got my sports field. It's a rugby field, and but it's going to be a competition style rugby field.
Yep.
I've got a drawing for you. So what do I have to do?
Okay, so drawings are good. So if you've got an AutoCAD drawing, that's fantastic. If not, a PDF. And the PDF has to be a clean PDF. So what I mean by that is, it's not a photocopy that's been turned into a PDF. It's a print from the AutoCAD file into PDF, so it's a clean one. If you haven't got any of that, then basically I'm going to need you to draw me a scale drawing to the dimensions of the field. If there's any existing poles, where they're located, how far back off the field they are, how high they are, what's on top of them, all that sort of stuff. And then I need to know where all the surrounding boundaries are. I need to know all that for the spill.
And obviously you need to know what is around the boundaries, houses, roads, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then once we've got, like you said, with the height of the drawing, if it's an existing pole, do we do any tests or do we check that the pole's going to be suitable?
Well, you can get the pole manufacturer, because each pole will have a label on it of who manufactured the pole.
Right.
You can get them to test it, but as I said, 9 times out of 10, the LED light fittings are smaller and more compact and
Yep.
more lightweight than the existing fittings.
Yep.
And it would have been calculated on the existing fittings on the pole, so therefore your wind loading is going to be less using the LEDs.
I did have one question from a contractor the other day, and it was about timber poles.
Yes.
He's got a field in a country location, and they have got like the old Energex timber
Yep.
poles.
Yep.
And he was asking about, you know, white ant and
Yep.
getting them tested and things like that, because they are doing an upgrade to the field.
Yep.
Is that something that has to be done, like, or was he just being a little bit over?
No, that should always be done, especially if you're doing an upgrade.
Yep.
It's a good opportunity to get someone else and test the pole, because generally it's 2/3 out, 1/3 in.
Yes.
So you know we can't see
No.
that timber part that's in the ground, so it's always good to get it tested to make sure, because when they're doing the upgrade, it's a great opportunity if they need to put a new pole in, do it at the same
Do it
time.
at the same time. Yep. Okay, so when it comes to choosing the luminaire, can I just go into an electrical wholesaler and say, I've got a sports field, I want that luminaire?
You could, but any good electrical wholesaler is probably going to say, no, listen, I'm going to put you onto a company or a person to get a recommendation on that luminaire.
Yep.
I wouldn't buy something off the shelf. I would be going to a company and getting the lighting design done and making sure that we're getting the right luminaire for the job. Yeah.
So I suppose, you know, getting the wrong light or something like that could really have the adverse effect of
Absolutely.
defeat the purpose of doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And you could be lighting up the neighbour's backyard very well.
And then that's money you've wasted. That could have gone towards
Yeah.
the right fitting.
And hence, I suppose at the end of the day, that would also cause you a lot of council issues.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because I do believe a council can ask you to turn lights off.
Yep, absolutely. Take them down, turn them off. You know, if they're getting complaints from neighbours.
Okay.
Yep.